Sequences were already a super powerful tool, but with the updates that have been rolling out, they're even easier to use and even more powerful. And I think that, obviously HubSpot is a great tool for prospecting, especially with all of the changes and new features from inbound. However, you can use sequences well beyond prospecting, right? They can be used in the process for account executives to get particular tasks done. They can also be used by your onboarding team to get clients to complete specific things, or to send them a series of personalized non-marketing messages or contact points when a client signs on. But I think much like forecasting, I think forecasting is much more complex to set up than sequences. However, I still think that people don't understand them. They don't get how to maintain them. And so, or how to easily go through the tasks using the various task player options. So I think that taking a look at how powerful they can be and understanding your sales or other communication strategies helps, and seeing how easy they are to set up and how powerful they are. So when we take a look at this is our sequence, analytics board. So we didn't used to have this. So we can see total enrollments, the rate at which people are booking meetings, replying, right? Because our goal typically is a meeting or a reply. Although again, we can set them up. I'll go through the settings a little bit later and use them for different purposes as well. But we can see all of this in percentages, and then we can go through and see step by step how many times the step has been executed and what's happened per step, right? We can look at this as percentages or as the count. All right. And then we can also see, steps where we have finishes, pauses, etc. So step 1, right? We have 1 pause, 1 finish. Step 4, we have 1 pause. And this is the current status by step. Okay. All right. So that gives us an overview. We can also look at everybody who is enrolled right now, and then we can build out our steps. So when we're building out our steps on our sequences, we can do a lot in terms of choosing our settings, right? So per step, we can see how it's performing. So these analytics are new as well. We can add an A/B test. So let's say that we are going to compare how this does to another one, right? And so we're comparing how those are going to perform. And then if we want to go ahead and edit the email or replace the email, we can do that here, all right? And then if you look here, we can edit the task itself, or we can edit the threading. What does that mean? It means this is going to be a new thread because it's the first email, right? However, what we can do with subsequent emails, speaking of email threading, is we can go ahead and set this up to either reply to the first email or to be a new thread, okay? And then when people reply, we can choose which subject we want them to reply to. All right. So then let's take a look at what else we can do here. So if we go ahead and we edit the task, when we're setting this up, we only have a few decisions that we have to make, right? So one of the decisions we have to make is, are we going to pause the sequence until the task is completed? Okay. So this is saying, hey, do we go on and send the next email or do whatever's next, regardless of whether this first step was completed, or do we wait for this first step to be completed to move on? Okay. And this is where you get a little bit more flexibility in your sequences, because if you're using them for more of an onboarding type of process or something where you are going to get responses, then, pausing things until the task is done is super helpful. Where, when you're doing genuine prospecting, you might not want to pause the task. You want to just keep those contacts going until somebody replies or until somebody books a meeting. Now, let's say that's not the goal of your sequence, right? One thing I want to do here too is with every single task, you have the same thing, right? So we can decide whether we're going to go on to the next step or not. But this is an automated email, right? So we don't have that option because this is going to send no matter what, and the task is automatically going to be completed. But then in the next one, again, we see that we can edit tasks. It makes it really easy to move things up and down. We check that out. I just said move up. Now the call is the second action. Okay. So this is pretty easy to set up in terms of building out the actions in your sequence. And then you're also able to see how well they're performing very easily, to see changes you need to make. You can run your A/B tests. That's great. So then we go to our settings. This is where we have a couple of other things that we can set up, right? Do we only want to execute on business days, window of hours that we're going to run these in? And then do we want email reminders for your tasks, right? So when we turn that on, then we can decide what time our email reminders are going to be sent. Perfect. All right. So then we look at automation. This is where we get very interesting. So if we get an email reply to any email in this sequence, do we want to unenroll our contacts, right? This is one that is used in every sequence. And so we are not able to edit this one. All right. If there's any email in this sequence, do we want to unenroll all contacts from the same company? We get to decide on that. And then here, again, this is set up so that if a meeting is booked, we aren't able to edit that. This is going to unenroll people from the sequence. Okay. Then we can also create additional workflows. So when we create additional workflows, we can go ahead and, when somebody has a form submission or a page view, let's check this out. We can either enroll or unenroll from a sequence. Okay. So they make that really easy here. And then we can do even more in a regular workflow, right? So if you have Sales Hub Enterprise, we can use workflows to enroll and unenroll from sequences. So in this particular one, we want to enroll somebody into a sequence if they, based on a result from Kixie, did they receive the text or not, right? And so that can help us determine a sequence. We can also use workflows as actions that happen in between actions in a sequence. So let's say we want to have a text as part of our sequence and texting is not available in the sequencing tool right now. You could go ahead and create a workflow to send that text message. If you're using a tool that has triggers for text that you have received as well, so I know that Sakari has those, then if somebody responds to your text message, again, we can unenroll them from a sequence. So the trigger can be has responded to this text message and is in this sequence currently, and then we can go ahead and unenroll somebody. So there's a lot that we can do with sequences if we extend their functionality using workflows, which again requires Sales Hub Enterprise. But as you can see, there's quite a bit you can do with sequences and they're not that hard to set up, right? So again, we have our performance, we can see who's enrolled, we can see the steps that are in our sequence, and I will go ahead and save those steps. We can choose our settings, and then we can also have our automation. And so with all of that, it makes it very easy to be flexible with our sequences, to track how they're performing, and to make changes to them. And just like with the forecasting, all of these Sales Hub tools are going to stack together to give you great analytics about your entire sales process, to start running your data-driven sales process without having to have some super advanced strategy for analyzing your data. All we need to do first is generate the data, and then we're going to put all the data together. And then we're going to talk about how we can analyze that data to improve our selling process, and how we can look at individual activities or solutions like a sequence, and then how we can look at the bigger picture, right? And so people who ran through this sequence, who were in this job title, were most likely to buy in less days than normal, et cetera, et cetera. So we're building up to that, and I look forward to continuing this Sales Hub journey with you.